Good morning. The purpose of this video is to give an update on where I am and to speak about a couple of different topics. And I'll go directly into the topics. I'll kind of give you my personal rundown a little bit later. The first, topic is compassion. I think that um, a lot of our business owners, uh, leaders, managers, they're not as compassionate as they should be. Meaning that, not meaning that they don't care, but they don't show their team the level of concern that they should. If a team member has a death in the family, I've seen some managers say, "Oh, same uncle died 10 times." Well, or they better come back with with a obituary. Well, that's all policy. That's I always say that's policy. If you ask an employee, hey, bring us an obituary, tell us about the arrangements. But very few will jump up and say, give us the arrangements. We're gonna send a wreath. We're gonna send flowers. We're gonna do something, uh, showing that we care about you. Secondarily, some owners don't have that care and concern about the families of the people that work for them. A lot of times, people have things going on in their life that they have to deal with. That's child care, visitation, tons of different other things. Let's say you've got you're on a swim team or something like that, or whatever activity that keeps you whole. See my video for He Who Makes You Happy Makes You Whole for kind of more details on that. But it's it's sometimes difficult for owners to understand that the world doesn't revolve around their mindset and um, around their their wants and needs. We find that in management that we have to kind of toe the line of what our managers or owners or vice presidents or whatever. We have to toe the line of what their policy or what they project, how they want to run a company or run a business. And a lot of times in that, we find that if a owner or manager or vice president or whatever their role is, if they don't care about the people that work for them, they don't have a level of care, concern, or compassion for them, then those managers don't have a level of care, concern, and compassion for the people that work for them, because they're disgruntled, because they feel like, hey, you know why am I having to do this job? Why am I having to do this? I'm not going to let someone else take off or be off from work when I have to work. Um, and sometimes that's a very negative way of looking at things. Uh, even in my own, management style, I've seen, that, I feel that managers, that for them to be successful, they should have days off. A few weeks ago, we were in a situation where it made absolutely no sense to give, a manager's day off. However, I was like, you know what, take 2 days off. And the reason being is because, one, I was 600 and some miles away from my family, from my kid. I hadn't seen my kid in weeks, since her birthday. Actually, I just saw her the weekend, and I got her now. But it's one of those situations where I can't, as a manager or as a person or human being, I can't expect someone else to feel the way that I feel. I mean, I've got another manager that works with me. He's away from home just as well as I've been. Well, my next goal, get him home for a little bit, and me do the work, whatever work that may be. We gotta have it where this guy can take his time off. I've got to show him that I give a damn about him and his family. Even though you say, oh, I mean, I don't mind being here for a month or whatever, I still need to give him that time off to recharge his jets, so that not they just say he feels good about the job, but that he feels, that I care, because I do. I mean, I just like I care about my kids, I care about the people who work for me, their kids, their families, and their the things that they like. I mean, so it's the compassion has to come uh, from the person who's in charge or the person uh, who runs the business. There's, like I said, I've worked for a lot of different owners of different types of companies and work with owners of different types of companies. So, meaning that I've been involved professionally with them, and all of them have certain things and ways of doing things. Um, some owners feel like a employee is an employee, that it's their job to take care of stuff, and that the owner shouldn't have any buy-in. Other owners feel like they should micromanage certain aspects of the business, but not micromanage the actual um, physical completion of the business. And when you don't have any level of involvement in the physical aspect of it, you lose respect to your people. Um, when an owner is selfish and they look at self and how I can do things for me and not how I can do things for my team, then they always have turnover. They always have people leave. Care, concern, compassion. A lot of, like I said, a lot of owners, they care, but they don't have concern or compassion, meaning that they just kind of, yeah, sorry for you had a death in the family. Oh, I'm sorry for your loss. Oh, I care. They care, but they don't have any true concern. It's like, okay, who's gonna cover Johnny while Johnny's out for 2 days or 3 days or whatever that case may be? It's not a situation of, hey, take your time off, we'll figure it out. It's a, okay, this person's out. And I say that to say this. I had an employee this morning tell me that they had a death in the family. My first answer was, I will be, let me know what's going on and take off as you need to. That was my first concern, is making sure that this person whose mind may not be in the right place right now, especially not at work. If you lose a member of your family, that's gonna be your top priority, especially if it was worth mentioning it was a close relative. So my mindset is, hey, take off, do whatever you need to, we'll figure it out. Well, you know other members of the team feel that, oh, they lying, they need to come up with an excuse, they got to come bring this back. I'm like, no, 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 that's policy. That's not having care and concern or compassion. I said, because at the end of the day, if someone in my family passed and I know I'm going to take off, I'm going to take off regardless, of the situation. And I would expect for my boss or my bosses to not just understand, not just say, oh, I'm sorry for your loss, but to say, hey, what can I do to help you? What can I do to make this load lighter? And I'll tell people in a heartbeat, when it comes to loss, the Jewish process of mourning helps a whole lot when you deal with mourning, but I'm not going to go into that today. But it's there's a level of care, concern, and compassion that each owner or manager or anybody who hears this should understand. You're going into any type of position where you're dealing with or managing others, or you're in a situation where you're just dealing with other people. Um, just saying I care is not truly saying that you care. You have to show that you care. I always say love, care, concern, compassion are action words. If somebody tells me, hey, once we get this situation taken care of, I'm going to give you that, I'm never the person that's going to sit there and say, okay, I'm waiting on that day to happen. When this gets to where it's supposed to be, this is what I'm expecting. Secondarily, if a person gives you an offer and says, I'm going to do this for you, and they don't do it, then it just shows you that the person didn't care. They didn't care. They didn't have any concern, and they're not compassionate to you as a person, how you would feel about being lied to. And that goes professional, personal. There are times when we as people, we may say something and not really understand the true magnitude of how that word, that promise, that gift affects other people. And then that's kind of where we have to rethink a lot of the things that we do. I've seen people who promise the world and know they can't deliver. I myself, I've had times where I've said, hey, we can do this, this, and this, and then come to find out, I get overruled by someone higher on the food chain than I am, and then it makes I lose credibility with that employee or that person that I'm dealing with because, I said I could do something because I was operating under the guys that I had the authority to do so, and then wasn't able to do it. A couple of people I've worked with for years, I had a guy, he promised me all this stuff, and then when I got in with the company, things changed. But the first thing he did, he came back and said, "I'm sorry." He said, I gave you the information that was given to me." That's where that care, concern, and compassion came in, because he knew I was kind of upset about the situation. Even though I had never said anything about it, he knew that when the company went a different direction and decided not to create the position that they had promised me, he knew I felt some kind of way. Even though I was making, really good money in the position I was in, I came to that company for a certain position that never materialized. So, to all the managers out there, to all the supervisors, team lead, you know, if you promise something, deliver. If you say you're gonna do something, do it. If you've got a team member that's struggling, do everything in your power to help them. Give them the care, concern, and compassion to show them that you're part of the team. Sometimes being part of the team is being present, not sending presents. Remember that. It's not always saying I'm gonna give you this or I'm gonna give you that. Sometimes it's just showing the person that you care by physically being there. And being physically there sometimes actually gives that air of give a damn or care or concern or compassion to your team. If you got a struggling team and you're not there, you showed your team that you don't care, that you have no care or concern or compassion for the struggles that they're going through. And you also show that long term you're not someone that they're gonna follow. You're not gonna be somebody that they're gonna stick with. You know, it is what it is. So when you run a business or you start a business, even if it's from a business from the ground up, you got one employee and that's your best friend. You still got to show that best friend the same compassion that you'd want. Hey, if I'm gonna take a vacation and I'm gonna be out of the country for 2 weeks and this person's gonna run my business, well, when I get back, I may need to look at, hey, I'm gonna shoot you a bonus for the hard work you did. I know we usually do this together. You took care of things while I was gone. Boom, here you go. It's not all numbers. Care, concern, and compassion don't have a dollar figure. Care, concern, and compassion they are things that are immeasurable. I mean, I worked with a company or with a group once, and once a year they gave almost everybody in the organization a bonus. Not performance bonus. They actually had a performance bonus system, but they would give people a bonus just, hey, you've been here 6 months. We never had an issue. We never had an issue with your center. Here's X amount of dollars. Uh, here's the distribution of your team. Give it out. Give them the checks. Random, totally random. That randomness might be $100. That randomness might have been $500. Some people it was like a couple thousand. And the owner and I had a very long discussion about it. And I said, well, why do you do that if you've got a performance bonus? And granted, his performance bonus wasn't as big as some companies I've been with, but his performance bonus was based off of what you do during the year. And at the end of the year, he said, okay, here's where we are on performance. We didn't hit all our goals, but I'm giving everybody full bonus. And I'm like, well, you gave them this, bonus here that wasn't tied to anything, and then now you're giving them a performance bonus and you're giving everybody 100%. Well, he made a very good point. He said, I given out, I don't know how many thousands of dollars, can't remember, but it was maybe like a couple $100,000. He said I gave them a couple $100,000, but I made $3 million. The money that I made was made on their backs, not on mine. He said, yeah, I go out, I engage with my crew. I go out and do things with them. I mean, and this owner was super hands-on. I mean, he'd come out and I hate to use the term, but he was almost like Nino Brown at Thanksgiving. He'd give out Christmas turkeys, and I mean, he'd do all kinds of stuff for his team. And he said, well, I feel that if I don't do things for my people, when they go to the next job, they're not going to take that care, concern, and compassion with them. He said, I want to show them that I care, I have concern, and I'm compassionate about them and their life. And he used a couple other words. I mean, the guy cussed like a sailor, but anyway, I won't repeat half of the sayings that he gave me. But the mindset was, if I don't show people that I care about them and how they live, then they're not going to care about me and how I live. And I kind of understood, but I didn't at the time. But now it's became kind of crystal clear to me. Is that when you take a team or a group and you show that group that you care, have concern, and you're compassionate about them. I mean, we had a lady that had a death in the family. He says, okay, I'm gonna buy a wreath. So he bought a wreath. He gave her a check for 40 hours. He said, I'm gonna give her a check for 40 hours free. And I was like, okay. He said, in addition to her bereavement. I said, okay, fine. So I'm making notes, of course, for payroll. And he says, all right, so now we've done that. He says, I want a representative of our company to give it to her, but give it to her in private. And I said, okay, no problem. And he said, and call me